Hey guys, today we're talking coffee. Cake. Coffee cake is a sort of recipe that every baker should have in the repertoire because it's perfect for just a little gathering of friends, unexpected company, taking to the office. The crumb topping is loaded with chunks of buttery cinnamon with a little hint of graham flavor from a touch of whole wheat flour. We've got a fluffy, fluffy cake underneath that's made with Greek yogurt, so it's tangy and bright. It's really good. If you don't believe me, I don't even know what kind of relationship we have anymore. The best part about coffee cake, as anyone and everyone knows, is the delicious crumb topping that goes on top. So it's called topping, you guys. So the first step is brown sugar. You can use dark or light brown sugar, whatever you have on hand, it's fine. Brown sugar contains a little bit of molasses that's gonna give us those rich, butterscotchy kind of caramel notes, and also it helps with clumping. It's a little bit clumpier of a sugar. Next, adding a little bit of whole wheat flour. Not because it's healthy, this is coffee cake, it's not healthy. It's gonna give the topping kind of this nibby, toasty, nutty kind of flavor. Cinnamon, a whole tablespoon, and that's what makes it so aromatic and delicious and comforting and cozy. Also, salt. Everything needs salt. Most recipes don't have enough. I'm putting in a lot of salt. Cardamom. It's not a lot, it's not gonna make this taste weird, it's just a nice aromatic. It rounds out the flavor of the cinnamon, brings a little bit more depth of flavor to the crumb topping, just a little bit. And then finally, 2 ounces of butter. It's not a ton of butter, it's not a super rich topping, just enough. And this crumb topping can technically be made by hand. If you wanna like get your hands in there and rub it together with your fingertips, that's fine. I'm gonna make it on a stand mixer and just try and keep clean. And I'm gonna just mix this on low speed until the butter kind of breaks up and distributes, and it's a kind of a moist and clumpy mixture. You know, the butter is distributed, but there's nice little clumpy bits. It's a really great crumb topping that has been made. You can like squeeze it together and it'll make one mega clump, and you can also break it apart. So you can customize your clumped crumb ratio. So once the crumb topping is made, we can just scrape it into a bowl and save it for later. For the cake itself, I'm using toasted sugar because I happen to have some. If you don't have any on hand, plain white sugar is absolutely fine. So putting in my sugar, also putting in some baking powder, some salt, vanilla extract, and some softened butter. The butter is at about 65 degrees, which is a little bit cooler than the butter in the topping. Return of the paddle attachment. So it's sufficiently awkward if I just stare. So once the mixture starts to come together and a little bit of a paste, gonna let the creaming process begin. It takes about 10 minutes. As a little point of comparison, I'm gonna pull out a spoonful of this mixture so we can look at it later and see how we've progressed. The timing on the creaming process takes about 10 minutes based on the ingredient temperatures listed in the recipe, but also on the power of my specific mixer. It may happen a little faster, it may happen a little slower, especially in chilly weather. So here we go, about 10 minutes. This mixture has been creamed up until it's fluffy and light, and here's how we know this is the case. This is the initial mixture of butter and sugar, and you can see it's like really dark and dense and thick, and this is the post-creaming situation where it's fluffy, light, and pale. So you want to see and feel this physical change that happens to the butter and sugar during the creaming process. This is not just some like fancy way of saying mix them together. It's creaming really means to do this transformation. So in order to get the eggs to emulsify into the mixture, it's important that they not be too cold or too warm. So the sweet spot from a strictly technical perspective is about 65 degrees. Still a little cool to the touch, cooler than body temperature, but not ice cold. Okay, egg 1. And at this stage you can overmix, so we don't want to infinitely beat the butter and sugar and eggs together. Once the eggs are being added, only continue mixing until it's homogenized into the butter and sugar and not indefinitely. Next up, I'm gonna add about 1/3 of the flour. Adding the dry and wet ingredients in stages just also helps protect the emulsion. A little back and forth goes a long way. And for the liquid portion, this is a little bit of Greek yogurt that, like the eggs, has been brought to about 65 degrees. About 1/3 of that goes in. Now back to the flour, back to the yogurt. I'm gonna scrape this into a 9 by 13 inch aluminum pan. This is like my favorite kind of brownie pan, or what I like to make cinnamon rolls in. You don't want to use a glass or Pyrex or ceramic dish. This is a cake, it really wants to be baked in a cake pan. That's because the aluminum is gonna help conduct the heat to the batter more effectively, a little bit faster, and that's gonna help it rise really nicely and develop a good crust. So now that the batter is spread into the pan, it's time for our prepared crumb topping. If you happen to have made this in advance and popped it in the freezer or something, you can use it straight from the freezer. You don't even need to thaw it. So just sprinkling some crummies on top. If for some reason you decide you want some more clumpy bits, you can always just squeeze it in your hand until like it forms little clumps, and then put those little clumps wherever you want them. It's up to you to create the lumps you want to see in this world. Okay, look, I did it. It's crummy. Now I'm gonna bake this guy. I'm over here. So this freshly baked coffee cake is delicious and it smells amazing, but you don't want to eat it just yet. Give it a little bit of time to cool, to shed that heat, to develop its structure, to firm up, and the slices will be fluffy and buttery and light and wonderful. You want to see a cool magic trick? Dun 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 dun. Ta-da! Now this is so easy to cut and serve. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, the coffee cake has had a chance to cool, so it's time to cut it. I have a cool cake pan that has a removable bottom, so I can just pop this whole piece out, and that makes it really easy to cut and portion. But if you don't have that, just line the pan with foil or parchment paper, and that way you can lift the cake out, and that'll make it a lot easier to cut. That sound is so satisfying. With coffee cake, brownies, or anything like that, you've got, you know, the corner pieces, the edge pieces, and then the center cut fillet. And that is my personal coffee cake sweet spot. So I'm just gonna put that one there for somebody else, and I'm just gonna slide on in here and get this baby. Now it's my favorite part of the day, where I get to eat the stuff that I've been making. What I love about this coffee cake is the tanginess of the Greek yogurt really comes through. And thanks to the make-ahead topping, half the project is knocked out, so you only have to make the batter and grab the topping right out of the freezer. I'm just gonna keep eating coffee cake.